The knock came just as Noah was about to lock his apartment door for the night. When he opened it, he barely recognized the exhausted man standing under the flickering hallway light. Jacob, the same best friend who had once laughed louder than anyone else, looked like someone carrying the weight of an entire lifetime on his shoulders. His clothes were soaked from the cold autumn rain, his hands trembled, and his eyes held a silent desperation that words could barely explain. Then Jacob whispered 4 words that would change both of their lives forever. "Just one night, please. If you were standing there, staring at someone who had once been family in every way except blood, would you open the door without asking questions? Or would the pain of old betrayals make you turn the lock and walk away?" Noah and Jacob had grown up together in a quiet neighborhood outside Chicago. Their childhood was filled with basketball games on cracked driveways, fishing trips with borrowed equipment, and dreams of building successful lives. Everyone believed their friendship would last forever because they were always together. When Noah lost his father during college, Jacob became the brother who stayed beside him through every funeral, every sleepless night, and every difficult decision. Years later, when Noah finally built a stable career as an electrician, he believed nothing could ever destroy the bond they had shared since childhood. Life, however, has a strange way of changing people. Jacob lost his construction job after an economic downturn swept through the city. What started as temporary unemployment slowly became months of rejection, unpaid bills, and growing frustration. Pride kept him from asking for help. Instead, he borrowed money from the wrong people, trusted dishonest business partners, and made desperate financial choices that only pushed him deeper into trouble. Eventually he disappeared from everyone's lives, including Noah's. Calls went unanswered. Birthday messages were ignored. Rumors spread that Jacob had left town, while others claimed he was living in shelters somewhere across Illinois. Noah spent years wondering what had happened, but eventually accepted that some people simply walked away. Standing in the hallway years later, Noah felt anger fighting against compassion. He remembered every unanswered phone call, every holiday spent wondering whether his best friend was alive, and every moment he had needed Jacob but found only silence. Yet he also saw a broken man whose pride had finally collapsed. Without saying another word, Noah stepped aside. Jacob quietly entered the apartment, carrying nothing except a worn backpack that looked almost empty. That night neither of them spoke very much. Noah prepared a simple dinner while Jacob ate slowly, as though every bite reminded him how long it had been since someone had cared enough to cook for him. The apartment remained quiet except for the sound of rain tapping against the windows. Before going to sleep on the living room couch, Jacob finally admitted that he had been homeless for nearly 8 months. He had spent nights in abandoned buildings, emergency shelters, bus stations, and sometimes simply beneath highway overpasses. Every day he searched for work, but without a permanent address or reliable transportation, every opportunity slipped away. Shame had convinced him that Noah deserved a better friend than the man he had become. The next morning Noah expected Jacob to leave after breakfast. Instead, he noticed his friend carefully washing dishes, folding blankets, and cleaning the apartment without being asked. There was no sense of entitlement, only quiet gratitude. Something about that silent effort softened the walls Noah had built around his heart. One night slowly became another. Then another. Over the following weeks Noah helped Jacob replace lost identification documents, update his resume, and reconnect with employment agencies. Progress was painfully slow. Some employers dismissed him the moment they learned about the gap in his work history. Others promised interviews that never happened. Every rejection reopened old wounds, yet Jacob refused to quit. The man who had once hidden behind pride was learning humility one difficult day at a time. One evening, while driving home after another unsuccessful interview, Jacob noticed an elderly woman struggling to change a flat tire on the side of the road. Despite carrying his own worries, he stopped immediately. Together they replaced the tire before the rain became heavier. The grateful woman happened to own a small family hardware store nearby. After hearing Jacob's story, she offered him a temporary position stocking shelves and helping customers. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was honest work. Jacob accepted with tears in his eyes because someone had finally chosen to see his character instead of his past. Months passed, and life slowly began rebuilding itself. Jacob saved every paycheck, rented a modest apartment, and regained something even more valuable than financial stability. He regained his dignity. Customers appreciated his kindness, co-workers respected his work ethic, and the owner soon promoted him to assistant manager. The scars of homelessness never completely disappeared, but they reminded him daily that every stranger carried battles invisible to everyone else. For Noah, the experience changed something deep within his own heart as well. He realized forgiveness did not erase painful memories, but it prevented those memories from controlling the future. Opening his apartment door that rainy night had felt risky. It could have ended in disappointment or betrayal. Instead, it became the beginning of redemption for two friends who both needed healing in different ways. Noah stopped measuring people by their worst decisions and started believing that sometimes all a person truly needs is one safe place, one kind hand, and one person willing to believe in them before they can believe in themselves again. Several years later, the two friends returned to the same neighborhood where they had grown up. The cracked basketball court still stood behind the old community center. Children laughed as they chased each other across the pavement, completely unaware of how fragile life could become. Jacob watched them quietly and smiled. He knew that if Noah had closed the door that rainy night, his own story might have ended very differently. Instead, one act of compassion had echoed across years, proving that hope often arrives disguised as ordinary kindness. Before leaving, Jacob quietly slipped an envelope into Noah's mailbox. Inside was the first $20 Noah had ever lent him back in high school, along with a handwritten note thanking him not for the money, but for seeing the man he could still become when everyone else only saw the man he had been. Before this story ends, tell us in the comments, if someone from your past knocked on your door asking for just one night, what would your heart tell you to do? As Noah watched his old friend walk confidently toward a future that once seemed impossible, he understood that the greatest miracles rarely happen through wealth or fame. They happen when one human being refuses to let another disappear into darkness. Sometimes a single night of compassion becomes the first morning of an entirely new life, reminding us that second chances are not given because people deserve them perfectly, but because hope itself deserves to survive. If this story truly touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe so more people can be reminded that kindness has the power to change lives.